What is going on, Bucks fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with yet another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today, the Buccaneers have released their first official depth chart. Now, I say first official depth chart. However, this is just what it is. The first one, very much subject to change and will change. I mean, this is the very first one that they did. This is before any preseason game being played. This is just sort of a I guess you call like a rough draft. So let's take a look though at some of the notable things. Of course, obviously a wide receiver, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both here. Trey Palmer there. David Moore is listed as wide receiver 6. Raheem Jarrett, Ryan Miller, Tay Barber. Russell Gage is the wide receiver 3 there. Devin Tompkins, Kalen Geiger, Cade Warner behind him. The starting offensive line. So right now, the starting offensive line would be Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, Matt Filer at left guard, center Ryan Jensen, right guard the rookie Cody Mock, right tackle Luke Gedeke. So the Bucks have Robert Hainsley listed on the depth chart as a center, with Nick Leverett as the backup right guard, Aaron Stinney as the backup left guard for some depth there. So that's interesting. And of course, we're gonna look, and you're gonna see the first string, and I'm not sure I've ever seen this before, but the first string being Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask could be the first string quarterbacks. Obviously, they have not yet selected a QB1. Baker Mayfield will start the opening preseason game against the Steelers, but Kyle Trask will get the start week 2 against the Jets in the preseason. John Wolford there firmly as the quarterback 3, but we do have Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask as co QB1s, I guess you could say for now, which obviously in a few weeks we'll narrow that down and there'll be a QB1 and a QB2 for sure. Rashad White, Chase Edmonds being the running back 2, Keyshawn Vaughn running back 3, and then Sean Tucker, Patrick Laird, and Ronnie Brown kind of all paired up into here. I think this is the one that could change. I think you could see a guy like Sean Tucker maybe sneak into, no pun intended, sneak into Keyshawn Vaughn's spot there as the third running back if Tucker impresses and Vaughn maybe falls back a little bit. But I do think it's notable. Chase Edmonds has looked good in camp, and I think it's notable that he's the running back 2 here. Kalijah Cansey, the first string defensive lineman. Of course, he's out right now. So Pat O'Connor behind him, as well as Mike Green, CJ Brewer, Vita Vea, Greg Gaines, Deidre Sanat. No surprises there, really. Logan Hall, Will Golston are listed as the first and second string defensive lineman there. So I would guess this would probably mean if Kalijah Cansey would have to miss any sort of time with his injury during the regular season, I would guess the Buccaneer starters would be Logan Hall and Will Golston. Again, this is subject to change, completely subject to change. So no guarantees this is what it actually will be, but we have a good idea of what the team is thinking at the moment. So linebackers, we go to outside linebackers, and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is listed as the first string there with Yaya Diaby, Jose Ramirez, and Rashid Hamilcar, Rashid, sorry if I butchered that, behind them. Devin White, KJ Britt, Ulysses Gilbert, Brandon Boyle Randall, Levante David, Servassier Dennis, JJ Russell. Really no surprises there in the running and the linebacker room. Outside linebacker, Shaq Barrett, Anthony Nelson, Cam Gill, and you got Charles Snowden and Marquise Watts there. So, like I said, not really any surprises there. I'm not sure just how much you're going to see guys like Shaq Barrett in the preseason still coming back from that major injury. So, like, I would expect you to see a lot of Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. And then guys like Yaya Diaby, Jose Ramirez, and like Cam Gill and Charles Snowden. Like, I would expect to see a lot of those guys in the preseason. So we'll have to keep an eye on how the Buccaneers manage their pass rushers and how they go about things that way. Cornerbacks, and really no real surprises here either. I guess you could say maybe if it's listed on the depth chart this way that Jamel Dean's like the top corner. I don't really think it matters at this point where they're listed. Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Anthony Chesley, Kean Isaac, Derek Pitts, Carlton Davis, D. Delaney, Josh Hayes, Don Gardner, Deron Lowe. It is interesting that both D. Delaney and Josh Hayes are listed as corners because both of them can also play safety if needed. So I do think that's interesting. They have that versatility to play that. Guys like Kean Isaac and Derek Pitts are two guys that I'm going to keep my eye on this whole preseason, not just on Friday night, because Kean Isaac has been one of the Bucs' better corners in camp, and Derek Pitts has made a lot of plays as well. So, like I said, you look at that list, and I keep talking about it. You look at that list, and it's Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, but then behind them, there's no one spot here locked in. Like, I think Zion McCollum's safe to make the team, but is his spot as the cornerback 3? Is it really locked in? I don't know that. So I do think that's interesting. And you look at all these names, there's not a guy that stands out like, oh yeah, he's definitely good to go. I think it's going to be a real competition for these final spots here behind Dean and Davis. Antoine Winfield Jr., Nolan Turner, Kendrick Whitehead, Ryan Neal, Christian Izien, Kayvon Merriweather, and Avery Young. Avery Young is the player that the Buccaneers just signed. He was an undrafted free agent, signed with the 49ers, got waived by the 49ers. So he's just now joining the team. I'm sure he'll play a good bit in the preseason so the Bucs can get a good look at him. But yeah, I mean, not really many surprises here either. Again, though, you look at behind Winfield, behind Neal, there's not a lot of like, oh yeah, that guy's definitely making the team, right? I mean, some of these guys will have to, but there's a lot of inexperience here. So, um, the guy with the most experience in this group right here is Nolan Turner, and he's only a second year player, and he hasn't really played much anyway. So, very interesting to see how they're going about specifically their defensive back room, where they're relying on some inexperienced younger depth, hoping to find a diamond in the rough there. Jake Camarda as punter. That's no surprise. Place kicker. Right now is Chase McLaughlin, and second string is Rodrigo Blankenship. It's been a quiet competition. It hasn't really been highlighted as much, I think, because of some of the other battles, like the quarterback battle, that has really taken the reins of what the coverage is going to be. But McLaughlin's been pretty good. Blankenship's been pretty good. I would say McLaughlin's probably been a bit more consistent in practice than Blankenship, so I think that's why he gets the nod here. And I'm curious to see how the Buccaneers rotate them in the preseason. Who goes out for a 40-yard field goal? Who goes out for the 35-yard field goal or an extra point? Who's going out? So I'm very curious to see how much opportunity each kicker is given during the preseason. Kickoff, Jake Camarda. Holder, Jake Camarda. Long snapper, Zach Triner, and then Evan Deckers. Punt returner, Devin Tompkins. Really no surprise there. Devin Tompkins returned punts for the Buccaneers last year. He's also the kick returner. Trey Palmer is the second string punt returner. I would expect them to give Trey Palmer a look. They've been giving him looks at practice in those situations. So I'm very curious to see how he does with that. And Rashad White being a kick returner is interesting. I don't know how much they're going to actually do that during the preseason because you don't want him really taking many hits. But he is listed as a second string kick returner. I think maybe that's in your break glass sort of emergency type deal, but we'll see. But yeah, that is the depth chart right now. Again, subject to change. The biggest thing here is you got dual quarterback ones, right? You still don't have a specific quarterback one. So I do think that is the biggest note there. Obviously, Kate Otten, I didn't really talk about the tight ends. Kate Otten, Keith, David Wells, Payne Durham being down here is interesting. Dominique Daffy and Tanner Tuala. Keith being the second string. David Wells is impressed. Keith being the second string, though. For now, like I said, you check back even in a week, this probably is going to change a little bit. So if it does change, we will keep you updated on the Buccaneers depth chart. But right now, this is the latest depth chart, guys. This is it. And this is what the Buccaneers are rolling with right now, heading into the Pittsburgh game. So we will see what happens to these guys. A lot of it can be performance based. If a guy outshines another, maybe they're moved up, maybe they're moved down. Who knows? So, but like I said, right now, and I think for the next few weeks, you're actually going to see Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask both in that first spot. I don't think you're going to see a guy alone in that spot until at least a couple days before the third preseason game at the earliest, I would say. So, with that being said, though, that is the Buccaneers. That's the depth chart, folks. That is the Buccaneers' first official depth chart. Like I said, subject to change, will change. But let me know what you guys think about the Buccaneers depth chart. Did anything stand out to you? Was anything surprising? Was anything disappointing to you? What players are you looking forward to seeing Friday night against Pittsburgh when the Buccaneers play their first preseason game? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and talk soon.